Good evening, everyone. We are back, and well, we're not doing our Disney retrospective anymore. That ship has now sailed. We are complete, at least until November this year, when Zootopia 2 comes out. But there is kind of a big event in film, I suppose, although I shall be boycotting it this year. It's the 97th Academy Awards coming up, and I believe that's sort of around the 2nd or the 3rd of March. Having seen the caliber of some of the films that have been nominated for Best Picture this year, I have decided to boycott the Oscars completely. I shan't be watching it. I shall probably report on what wins. But just with scheduling and everything, there is no way that I'm going to be able to get all 10 Best Picture films watched and all 5 animated features. And considering we've been talking about animated films for over a year, because I mean, we did 64 Disney retrospective videos. I thought, well, I asked you, I pitched this to you, see if you would help, join me hosting and doing reviews on the 5 nominated films for Best Animated Feature. It's a category that I've always had a passion for. That's why we did the Disney films as well, just that passion for animation. And there's usually some absolute gems in there sometimes. So there's 5 films that have been nominated, and we're, well, hopefully before March the 2nd, we're going to try and get all of them reviewed. So the reviews are going to be more rapid fire. It's not just going to be one a week, because 2nd of March is literally almost upon us. Before we get into it, though, Dale, how are you doing tonight, man? You all right?
Yeah, I was thinking, why can't we review the Brazzers Awards? I think I think that could be a nice category.
Well, what I'm very curious about, your input in the reviews today, is if you're going to be upholding the tradition of a Van Halen reference, because that was something that you came up with that you wanted to do for the Disney films, and you did 64 plus, because some reviews had about 3 or 4 Van Halen references in there. You did it, and I want to know if you're going to uphold the tradition, or if there's going to be a new reference.
I don't think I can uphold that tradition, because we've done other reviews and they haven't been on there. So
that's true. Damn it.
Yeah,
that's true.
Imagine that though, forever. There was always one in there.
Maybe for the next retrospective, because this isn't really a retrospective. This is us just reviewing the 5 nominated films. But we do actually have another big retrospective planned for midway through June, I think it is actually. So maybe you can think of a new reference.
Is that the Brazzers one?
Sure. Yeah, it's the Brazzers one.
That would be great.
Anita is talking about Disney's Dinosaur 2000. We're not talking about that now, Anita, I'm afraid. I don't know if Anita is actually a real person or is a robot. I am actually not sure.
Is Anita in a wheelchair?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm just imagining that scene from The In-Betweeners where the frisbee hits her. Like, it's that girl.
That scene's great. Right, so yeah, we're here to talk about Inside Out 2. So we'll talk about maybe our first time watching Inside Out. But I just want to say, this movie has broke records left, right, and center. I kind of just, for whatever reason, I didn't go and see this film at the cinema. I did go and see the first Inside Out. And certainly in terms of, I guess, can we call it modern Pixar? Because it came out in 2015, which I have to keep reminding myself is 10 years ago. I don't even know if that counts as recent. It does to me, at least. It's probably one of my favorite sort of modern Pixar films, and felt like a bit of a return to form. I really liked the emotional journey of that film, and really gravitated towards the imagination of the world and this world of emotions and inside the head. And I thought there was some pretty fun gags in there and clever play on words and stuff of how they really brought this world to life. But for whatever reason, I didn't go and see Inside Out 2. I don't know particularly why. And I didn't hear many people talking about it. I didn't really see any reviews on it, to be honest. So I'm glad that I finally got to it now. But what I didn't realize was going down with this film is that for a time, this was the highest grossing animated film of all time. This film has made serious bank. And it currently sits at just shy of 1.7 billion off a 200 mil budget. I had no idea that it had made that much. That's insane. And when I was watching it, I kept thinking, because I checked up information on the film after I watched it. The whole time I was watching it, I was thinking, are we going to get an Inside Out 3? Are we going to, get a trilogy of these films? I think it's fair to say, off the back of that, we're absolutely getting an Inside Out 3. Yeah, I know
I
they've
want
done
the
like a
horror
bunch of
version.
spin-offs, I think, haven't they? They've done spin-offs as well on
I
Disney
think
Plus.
so. I've not watched any of the spin-offs only because I didn't enjoy the first one that much.
Mm-hmm.
But I want the horror version. I want Inside Out 3 to be like a horror movie and see how their emotions like cope with like a serial killer in the house.
I was going to say that there are moments of this film, and I'm glad you agree as well, that when you break it down as to what's actually happening, it gets really dark in a way. There's moments where it almost seems like Riley is like completely schizophrenic or just, really like almost psychopathic and just quick to these emotions. And I get that it's, it's the world in her head and everything like that. But if you were actually in that situation in real life, watching someone just ping between all these like 8 different emotions, one after the other,
Yeah,
it'd
but
be
she's going
really
through
fucking
puberty, isn't
creepy.
she? She's
That's
like
right.
a she's like a 13-year-old girl. That's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what girls do until they like hit the age of like 95.
Yeah.
So it's very realistic.
Oh no, we're gonna get blacklisted again, aren't we? Oh no. What I will say about Inside Out 2 is that I think that Inside Out 2 tops the heights of the first one? In my opinion, we might disagree on this. I think no. I think that the novelty of this world and the rules of this world, that ship has kind of sailed a little bit, I think. The first one was completely new to me, and I absolutely loved it. And, the core cast of the characters, I thought it was really inventive. We've already set this world up now with the second one, and it can usually be the pitfall of a sequel. It's like, well, what do you do with a sequel? And you bring in new characters, you bring in new emotions, and what I actually appreciate about the film is that I think there is fertile ground here for a sequel. It's not like, like Cars 2 or Cars 3. It's just like, oh, this is a merchandising thing, or, oh, we're going to do a sequel to Finding Nemo called Finding Dory. And Pixar have done a lot of these pointless spin-off films and sequels that really, or prequels, in fact, that don't live up to the hype. With a film like Inside Out, where you have a character like Riley, I think it is actually quite good to see that progression, because emotions do change as we get older. And I think that means there's still story there to tell. There are places that they could tell it. Whilst I don't think that the inventiveness of the world is as original as the first film, of course it's not going to be, because we've already had the first film to bring us into this world. I still do like the progression of the character of Riley and how they were able to continue that story with new emotions.
Yes, I really really liked. Well, I just really really liked the whole thing. Like there was a lot of things making me laugh properly in this. I didn't actually get that with the first one though. Yeah, we've already had the established world, but I think there were better jokes. There was better humor in it. There was better. I wouldn't say better chemistry, because that would be wrong. Because I always thought the chemistry between the emotions was always really really good in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, I went in with really high expectations because I saw the trailer, and I thought, oh, it's going to be really good, and it was very average at best.
Yeah.
But that being said, the reason I like this, it might, could it be because I went in with much lower expectations because I didn't like the first one? I don't know. So I was pleasantly surprised. It could be that side of it, but yeah, I just really really liked the chemistry between everyone. I really liked the way everyone acted, the way everyone gelled together. Like I say, like at the beginning with the whole the thing where they the console and then they touch it and it's really really sensitive. Just the way they all reacted to every bit of situation, I really liked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, me too. As I say, I don't think that I don't know. It didn't seem to hold my attention as much as the first one. And maybe that's just because I'm, completely ADHD brained now compared to when I was watching the first one. I'm not sure. But there are very similar beats from the first one. And I think it kind of does away from the traditional storytelling of a lot of Disney films and a lot of Pixar films, in that first one, it's another 2 people off on the road together, the odd couple, the 2 people that aren't meant to mix together and, have their differences. But by the end of the film, they come together. It's a tale as old as time with Disney and with Pixar. And it's a good formula. So the first movie, you mostly follow joy and sadness together. And by the end of the film, spoiler alert, they realize that you can't just have emotion. Emotions can be fused with joy and with sadness, and they have to come together for Riley to function, basically. And there's a similar scenario with this movie too. You have one of the new emotions in there, anxiety, played by Maya Hawke, who's Uma Thurman's daughter, who I actually thought did a really good job. Saw her for the first time in Stranger Things, and it's good to see that she's
I
branching
have
out into other
never
work.
seen someone look so much like their parent, though.
She is the spitting image of her mum, isn't she? It's crazy.
Yeah, it was quite. I remember the first one. I was like, "Is that actually her?" I was like, "Oh, okay."
Which makes me think now that Maya Hawke's actually pretty well established now, through Stranger Things hype, and she's landed other roles and whatnot. If they did do a Kill Bill 3, I mean, the actress who played BB in Kill Bill 2, she's still an actress. You could cast her, but I think that they would probably go
Oh
Maya
yeah, they
Hawke,
would,
wouldn't they?
because
Yeah.
she looks exactly like whoever. I don't know the actress name that played BB, but there's no way she looks like her.
Yeah. And with Anxiety's presence in this movie, again, it takes on a familiar sort of ending as the first movie, where Joy comes to the realization that they all need to work together again, and it's that melding of Anxiety and Joy together that form the core belief system. So it kind of follows the same scenario, but I think the first one, with it just being sadness and joy, there's a lot of room for chemistry there. There was a Disney film that you mentioned that did the same thing, where I think it was maybe between sequels, how you spend a lot of time with two characters. I think it was Moana. We were talking about how the first one, you really get a lot of time with Moana and Maui together, whereas in the second one, you pile more characters in. There's more of an ensemble, so that core dynamic isn't as strong. And I think that's the case with this one, when you have anger, disgust, fear, joy, and sadness all bombing off together as a group, as a company, and then you've also got to balance the time with these new emotions as well. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I agree. There is that. But the thing I think works better about this is they were already established characters. We already liked them. They had a personality. Whereas with Moana, it was just throw in a load of new characters that, again, was meant to be a TV show. And it was just like TV show sub characters are meant to have a certain amount of screen time. It's kind of like a difference in a TV show has a certain amount of budget. And when you go to a movie, it has more. So when you ever see a TV show and then you'll see like they'll do a movie of it, you can see by the camera angles and everything that everything is so much higher budget. It goes for the characters, their screen time and the way they act has a higher budget, and we didn't get that from those characters. But with this, you get characters that had chemistry, characters that were established. We knew the characters, they had personality, and there was none of that whole like they didn't feel like they were thrown in there just because it was like. Because Moana, you could tell where it was like, okay, we're supposed to have a little movie, a little episode here, then a little episode here, and like kind of delve out here. But Inside Out 2 didn't do that. There was more of established characters, and they're going to be involved in this and that. You could kind of say a similar thing about Toy Story, because the first one is literally like Buzz and Woody, and then the second one you've got Ham and you've got Rex, Mr. Potato Head, and stuff. They're all kind of going on that adventure. But they were already characters we loved, characters that were established, they had personality, and I feel like this is kind of doing that.
Yeah, no, I can completely agree with that. And there are some elements to this that I still really liked. I think the strongest things for me are the inventiveness of this world and where they have like fun play on words. For example, there's a scene where a sarcasm is created, which stops them from getting somewhere. And when they shout across it, the echo to the listener on the other side comes across as someone being really sarcastic. I thought that was great. You have things like the stream of consciousness, little bits like that, similar to the first movie, how they had to hop on board the train of thought. And I thought, these are, I like that stuff. I like those fun little puns and whatnot, and how they work them visually into the world.
That was good. That's one of the things I think was my favorite about this. I say series, but what I mean, these two movies. That was one of my favorite things about it. Just those silly little things. You're like, I see what you did. That kind of thing, where you're kind of poking the movie, like, see what you did there. Yeah.
So apparently, because the director of this isn't the same director as the first movie. The first movie's director was Pete Docter, and the director of this one was Kelsey Mann. Apparently, I think it was during the release of the first film, or maybe even during production, he was already coming up with ideas for a sequel. And apparently the original director's pitch was, quote, 5 to 27 emotions between the films. 5 in the first one. He wanted to have 27 in the sequel.
See, that would have been character bloat a bit.
Yes, just a bit. And I think that the new director quickly realized this. So apparently, the first pass of the film had 9 new emotions, which made Joy feel really overwhelmed. And they felt, as you just said, there's too much character bloat. They couldn't keep track of all the different emotions, so this was whittled down into the ones that we had. But apparently, some of the original emotions that were going to be in this film was, is it Schadenfreude or Schadenfreude, which is having joy at someone else's expense. There was going to be jealousy and there was going to be guilt. And then these last 2 were kind of reworked into envy and anxiety. What did you think to the new emotions established then? Do you think they were well-written characters
I
or
thought
fun?
their entrance as well was great. I thought they came in a good way. I thought the Yeti one was brilliant. You know,
Embarrassment.
Yeah, where he's got the hoodie and he looks like a Yeti. I'd always, in my mind, it's always the Yeti. I don't know why, but he looked like a complete Yeti. But anyway, I thought they were great. I thought they looked great. I thought they came across as well. Like, what's, the one with the big nose? Which one's that again?
That was Embarrassment.
Embarrassed with the big no, no, the pointy no, but the triangle face kind of thing. Lays on the sofa.
Oh, ennui, boredom.
Yeah, that was it. Boredom. Yeah,
French
I
one.
keep going to say laziness in my head, and I was like, no, but it's not called laziness. But yeah, that one. Because like when you see her just sort of like lying on the couch and sort of, she's on her phone, isn't she?
Yes, just kind of total disinterested teenager.
Yeah, it's that whole like every character has an actual personality. You know what I mean? So I think they came across really, really well. I think like they were introduced well. I think they gelled well with the rest of them. Yeah, and there was only four. Yeah, there was only 4, wasn't there? So it wasn't this whole
envy, embarrassment, anxiety, ennui. Technically, well, there's nostalgia as well. The old lady who they keep in the basement. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, so it's like there's 4 new ones.
This other time. We don't go down that road.
I think maybe because you mentioned we've already had the first film that establishes the main core cast. I didn't really take to these new emotions as much. Anxiety is kind of the main one. That's, she quickly takes control of the situation, pretty much like the equivalent of Joy does with the other group.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe we just didn't get enough time with them. I didn't seem to connect with these new emotions as much as the old ones, and that could entirely be because we've had a previous film, maybe. I'm not sure, but I like that we got some new characters in there, because I think it fits in with as you get older, and especially going through puberty as a teenager, everything's going crazy. And I like how they brought that chaotic nature to the film as well, how you have the workers who come in and say, right, we're putting a new console in now, and when the emotions try and touch it, it's super sensitive, which just sets Riley off. So yeah, there's still inventive things in here.
Oh yeah, very inventive things. I think they came across really well. They looked like them being there. I think it changed the environment as well, and I think I like that. It didn't feel like they were just pushed there for no reason.
Yeah. Apparently there was going to be another emotion as well. I forgot to mention this before, called shame. But they actually recruited a lot of sort of psychology professors and whatnot to help with the research for the film, and to make sure that they're on the right track.
I don't get about these things, when it's like, when you have these movies, they're like, oh, they recruited a psychology professor, they recruited this person to help them, and it's like, I could have fucking told you what that's like. Like, you don't have to recruit some like high-end professor. Like, I get it, but sometimes you're like, they'll do it for like the way a lion's tail moves. Oh, they recruited like a zoologist. It's like, mate, Google it. Like, you don't, like, it was just sometimes you never feel that when they do that. You're just like, you didn't need to recruit a whole team that's going to cost you like, $1 million to do.
Yeah, it looks all like posh and swanky, doesn't it, on paper? Like, oh yes, we reached out to a high-end professor to do this, which, as you say, like a quick Google search could have done. And on top of that as well, apparently Pixar enlisted a group of 9 teenagers who were dubbed Riley's Crew to provide feedback on the film to ensure it accurately portrayed modern teenage life.
This is what I mean. Like, why do we? That's the kind of thing that's like. Why do we need to do that? Why do we need teenagers to tell us that actually represents us? Because all teenagers can look at that and go, "Man, that's shit." That's all they're gonna do. That's what teenagers are like. They're not gonna. Things like that we don't need to be doing. We need to cut out the whole like involving random people to do this. Just literally remember what it's like to be a teenager. Have you got kids? Yeah, cool. Just go home, study your kids. Very simple.
With the emotions in this film, I was going to say, out of the original core cast and the new characters, I think you already mentioned that embarrassment's your favorite one of the new cast. Which is your favorite one out of the old cast?
I liked, at first it was anger. At first, then I don't know if it's just me, but does it feel like he doesn't really have that much of a personality?
I don't feel like he has as much to do in this one. Maybe maybe he just filters into the
I don't think he
background.
has that much of a personality. I think he's kind of there and he's cool, but he's more just like a showy thing.
Yeah,
I feel.
Yeah.
My favorite was what's the green one called? The really
Disgust.
Yes, that's it. That's my favorite one. The bougie one. I keep saying bougie in my head. It's like I keep giving them all different new names. I'm like, that's bougie in my head. That's the one.
At first, I was actually kind of resentful against new characters being in this, because
that should be a new emotion.
Resent.
That's the thing. There should be so many more.
The reason is, I felt like when I saw the trailer for this thing and they were getting a bunch of new characters in there, I thought, well, you're doing this because it's a sequel and you've got to have new characters in there to keep it fresh. But I kept thinking, aren't all of these new emotions kind of offshoots of the ones that we've already got? For example, anxiety could come under fear, or it could come under sadness.
Yeah,
it's like, and we've seen some of those. It's not like Riley has never had anxiety before. She had a lot of anxiety in the first movie.
This is the thing. So I thought that, but all those emotions have learned how to live together. So it's kind of like a whole, like you touched upon, the whole, you'll have sadness and then you'll have like joy and then anger, and like they've learned to sort of like live together, fuse together, and you can kind of live in harmony. Like we all know, like in life, like it's healthy to be sad, it's good to be sad, blah 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 blah. There's more in my little TED talk I'm going to do later if you want to talk about emotions. But yeah, no, it's good to, like, obviously to have those emotions, and we've all learned to live with them. But these come along, and yes, they might be similar. So it's like, okay, so if someone says to you like the whole what's it called, like, oh, I suffer with depression, and they've got proper, like, they might suffer to the point of having suicidal thoughts, blah 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 blah. And so there's a big difference between depression and sadness, essentially. But if it was a bird's eye view, they would look similar because they have a similar emotional thing to get. You know what I mean? But yeah, so there's similar aspects, and that's kind of like those emotions, like they are, but there are these new things that have come in that haven't learned how to live with the rest of them. Because when you're a teenager and you first get those heightened emotions, they haven't learned how to live with the rest. Because when you grow up, you don't lose those emotions. You just learn how to channel them. And I think that's what this shows, which I think is really good. So yes, they might be similar, but it shows that there's actually new heightened versions that haven't learned how to process with the rest of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can see that. And we've got bath time in the comments right here. This is I didn't even realize this. We have done this really quite well, actually. He says, hello, boys. I love the way the graphics have lined up with Dale wearing a tie. Yeah, that's pretty special. I like that.
It's great. I might keep this look.
And how I'm lined up, Envy has got Batman horns as well, which is pretty...
Might be the thing to do.
And Bath Time says, saw the first one of these, enjoyed it, but never thought, you know what? We need a sequel with completely new emotions. Yeah, I think if you are going to do a sequel, I feel like you have to. And I think they made the right decision bringing some new characters in to keep it fresh and some new dynamics in there, which I do think fit well with Riley getting older, as I've mentioned. But I still can't help shake the fact that I think a lot of these are kind of offshoots of the core ones that we already had. Like embarrassment, you have moments where sadness goes like, oh no, what if we go into this situation? What will they think of us? That's kind of embarrassment a little bit as well. Like she worries about that stuff. So I feel like sadness was the broad name, and then a lot of these other offshoot emotions kind of filtered into it. Envy as well, I kind of feel like come under disgust a little bit. The bougie one, the sort of like cool girl at school, the what do you call them?
Yeah, it was what they could have done, I guess, is which I think would have probably worked, is if these new emotions kind of came out from certain others. So like sadness, sort of like, let's say another head appeared and there was like,
oh god,
so
it's like a body horror film.
Yeah, no, but do you know what I mean? Like something like that, and that's how they developed, and it was new emotions coming from the others. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could have been an interesting idea. They could have done something like that to show they are kind of the same. But yeah, I like I mean, I get it that they were similar. I get that, but I think it was necessary to have them as new characters.
I think why I thought, well, the core emotions are the only emotions you get is because in the first movie, and you could argue that maybe these are just done for, like gags and whatnot, but they actually do it again in this one when you go into like the mom's head or the dad's head, and they go kind of crazy with it at the end of the first one. It goes inside like the cat's mind and the dog's mind and whatnot, and all over the place. You just see the core emotions, but they're done to look like the mum or done to look like the dad. You don't see anxiety or embarrassment or envy or any of these other ones, which apparently you get once you hit puberty. And the real reason for that is because the characters hadn't been invented at that point, because we just had the first movie. Now we kind of got to retcon these new emotions into there, and I don't know. It was right decision, but...
I think there should have been a deleted scene at the end where there's like the gay emotion shows up, and then like gets.
Is that an emotion? Is that an emotion?
It is now. Just shows up and then like acts all really, really camp strutting around the room, and then the others just like beat him to shit and murder him.
Oh my god!
Like, no, not here. And that's it.
Damn based. We had a comment earlier from Rafa who says, I've never been too much into animated movies, but I do have to admit the ones I've watched are pretty good in all fronts. Rafa, let us know some of your favorite animated movies, or have you seen the ones that have been nominated this year? Let us know what you think.
Does like in hentai, is that the same?
It's thing? Animated. It's animated.
There you go.
So, we had one from Brinsley earlier. He said, "Sup lads, how you doing, Brinsley?" And we've had a whole lot from Anita, like all the comments from Anita. A lot of them talking about things that we talked about in previous reviews. And so yeah.
I'm thinking Anita's in a wheelchair.
Based on absolutely nothing, but you just
I believe, and that's why she's at the keyboard. She can't move because she's like, I can't wheel myself away. Like they've rusted over. I believe that's what's happened, and it's like, oh shit.
Oh my god. Bathsime says, are any of the traditional negative emotions, i.e. anger, ever seen as decent motivators or have a positive impact to them? That's a good point. He's mostly just played for laughs a lot of the time, isn't he? Or he's like, give me a hold of that console, like when he's about to kick off.
I swear in the first one there is. I can't remember though, because I haven't watched the first one in a while. I probably should have in the lead up to this. That would have been good. But it just never intrigued me too much. But I feel like they were in the first one.
I think it was like the situation she was in, because they were moving in the first one, weren't they? They were having to move to like a different state or something. And Riley, she was going to have to leave everything behind, and she was scared and she was angry at the situation. So I think they mentioned that if any one emotion takes over, I think this was the whole point of the first movie, wasn't a good thing, but I feel like you need a healthy balance of all of them. And that's basically what they do in this movie again, isn't it? It's the same almost exact story. The fact that they have that core belief system, and once again, like the first film, joy is like, oh no, we can only have positive things. Positive things go into the core memory beliefs and everything, or the sense of self, wasn't it, that gets formed. And then anxiety takes over, and the anxiety-ridden sense of self isn't conducive to a normal human being or a good human being. So by the end, it's sort of like a hodgepodge of all of them together. I don't know where you could take this to a third film. I guess the next one, the next logical step is adulthood. But yeah, oh no.
No, that's not what I was going to say. To be
fair. I thought because you did pitch me what you would suggest for an Inside Out 3, and I don't know if we could actually share it on a live stream.
No, I think of brain damage. Like the world cuts off and they can't communicate with the rest. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Because what do you do for a third one? Do you add even more characters in there? Do you have...
This is what I'm saying. You cut it off, and then certain emotions sway and disappear, and then it's like, oh, we can't get to them, and then but brain damage, you ain't coming back from that, so the emotions die.
Oh no!
So I think a brain damage one where she takes like
She has a hockey accident. She like
I
hits
think
her head
a
on the
hockey puck
ice.
to the head, and then I think that could work.
Mm-hmm.
In all seriousness, that could actually end up being a good movie, but they ain't gonna do it.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I don't envy them the mission of creating a third one, and they will. Disney will put that. Of course, they are, because we're living in the sequel age at the moment. And if Inside Out 2 is becoming the second, I can't believe that, the second highest grossing film the second highest grossing animated film, I should say,
I'm
of
still
all time.
surprised it's not as amazing as everyone makes out. It's really not.
No, it's not. I think just in terms of sequels, I feel like it's justified. I think they could have just left the first one.
I did really like the sequel, but the first one especially, it was just I watched it and I never watched it again because I was like, eh.
I think the thing that didn't hold my attention with this one is that I just really didn't feel the stakes of this one. Like, I know it's Riley, and she's trying out for the hockey team, and she really wants to fit in with everyone, sort of like your typical teenage high school drama kind of thing. But I don't know, maybe it's just because like I'm older now and I'm just like, I don't really care about the stakes of this one.
Do you
I'm not
remember
sure.
Ozzy and Drix?
No.
So there was a movie. I can't remember what the movie was called, but the TV show was called Ozzy and Drix, about these two characters, Ozzy and Drix. But the movie was called something else. I can't remember. But it was about these two blood cells that lived in this dude, and they were like fighting crime, and the crime was like these these blood cells, like basically a virus that came down, and they would shoot them and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was really, really cool, and it was a good TV series. But it just reminds me of that as well, that inside, because you get the life of the dude, and then you get the life of the inside as well. I never saw the movie. I can't remember if the movie has live action elements, but yeah, like if the dude is live action, that is a cool idea. But I don't know if they did that. But yeah, the cartoon was cool. It was fun. It always reminds me of that every time I watch it, which I really like the series. But that was a series that held up as a series of episodes. This, is a movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, I say I haven't seen the spin-offs to this as well, so it's going to be many years away before we get an Inside Out 3. But I mean, this sequel was set 2 years after the first one, which it's been a considerable more amount of years for us in real time since the first Inside Out film. But they probably didn't want to age her up that much because they wanted to go the whole teenage route with it, so it was just 2 years. But I mean, if you do another one, let's say it takes another 10 years for Inside Out 3 to come out. Do you have it just set like another 2 years afterwards? But I feel like when you're a teenager, that those emotions that we established in this one and everything she went through, that kind of coasts all the way through.
You have the menopause years,
right? Yeah, it's just flash forward.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think. I think the menopause years. When do you start getting menopause? Like 50?
Oh, I think it varies, doesn't it? Yeah, it's probably around like late.
So when
40s,
she's like 50,
maybe
she
50s.
gets menopause, then she gets raped in a dark alley, and then all the emotions like freeze, and you don't know. They're like, we don't know how to react to this. And
that was your pitch. That was your pitch for Inside Out 3.
I think that'd be great. I think that would be amazing. And then you have the fourth one, the brain damage from when she gets dementia. That's it, and the emotions don't know each other's there. I think this is the way to go. But
Disney should get you on the team. Like, you're already green. You've already got the fourth one ready to go. Let's get a franchise out of this.
Happily about the fourth one is obviously it's traumatic when she gets raped in the third one, but because she gets dementia, she forgets all about it. Hey, nice, really, isn't it? It shows you, isn't it? Yeah, it shows you the positives of dementia.
Wow. That's
good life lesson, really.
Right there. Yeah.
And the reason it's for the kids' movie is because it teaches them, do not be scared of dementia.
A family picture. I love
exactly.
Bath time. Very good question, Bath time. Where did you find Dale? Where did I find you, man? God, it was...
I was on the street playing guitar.
Yeah.
With a homeless man.
We worked together for a while. Actually, the first year that I worked with you, well, I was there for a few months. I was a seasonal colleague. I actually didn't speak to you, but you were there at that time, I believe.
I was always around. I existed.
It was the following year, and I actually don't remember the conversation that sparked the friendship, but we very quickly realized that we were into the same kind of music, which I think was a big deal.
Was it the Carrie Fisher one?
It could be, yeah, yes, yeah. And then our shared conversations over losing like every celebrity. We lost, what was it? It was
Oh,
Carrie
that was
Fisher.
that was a
We
weird year.
lost David Bowie, Alan Rickman, and Lemmy. It was like boom, boom,
That was
boom,
a weird
boom,
year.
boom.
Didn't George Michael die that year as well?
Yeah, I think that was pretty close, wasn't it? So,
That was a weird year.
and then we started going to rock nights. We've been to gigs and stuff, and now we're doing
And
Disney
Cascada.
and Cascade. Yeah, and now we're doing
Absolutely.
Disney retrospectives. It's great.
Yeah.
Carl says, "Evening guys, Inside Out 2 really grew on me. Went in really skeptical, but thought it really explained the feeling of getting older and obviously anxiety and how it can take over your mind." Yeah, and I think the thing that I like about the Inside Out films, both of them so far, as I say, I did prefer the first one overall, is that similar to Toy Story, there is that underlying message, probably more so actually in this, but of getting older, of going through childhood and what you feel. With Toy Story, unsurprisingly, it's focused on the toys and that sense of childhood and creativity that you have as a kid, and as you get older, that kind of diminishes a little bit. And I think there are some similar themes with Inside Out, so I think that's why it clearly has a resounding impact on a lot of people, because everyone can connect to it in some way. Whichever emotion is more prominent in your mind or whatever, there are always moments in these that you can harken back to, or think about experiences that you went through, whether during a teenager, whether you were filled with anxiety or whatnot. Or for me with Toy Story, it was Toy Story 3, because that came out right at the time that I was about to go to university, and I really connected with Andy, having essentially grown up with Andy. And I'm sure Riley's is a very similar character for people watching these films nowadays as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's very, very like Toy Story, because also, like we compared earlier with the emotions, and there's a new set of emotions and blah blah blah. Very, very like Toy Story with the ensemble cast and the yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it comes down to sadness behind the books, it just reminds you of in Toy Story 3 with the worm, the bookworm. Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
reminds me of that. I was going to say he's a worm, and I was like, yeah, he is. He's a bookworm. Is he a toy?
Yeah, I was really confused about that as well. I believe he is, yeah, but I was confused as to whether he was actually real. Yeah.
I thought it's just only just came into my head now. I'm like, hang on, he's a worm.
It's the kind of texture on him, isn't it? It looks...
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same too. Carl says, I also thought it was clever how the shoot that pushed the thoughts you wanted to avoid the back of your mind, and how it can build up. Yeah, I thought that's cool, sort of like suppressed memories as well. Actually, I wanted to talk about that scene, the vault. I did think this was a bit weird, and personally, I didn't think this really fit with the film. There's a moment where all of the emotions get bottled up and shot into them, and they're basically in prison, in like thought prison, essentially, in the vault. And in there, they find like a deep, dark secret in a vault. And then there's kind of like an animated cartoon character. But then there's also, he's essentially Cloud from Final Fantasy. And he's a video game character in this vault. And he's kind of moving around, sort of glitching around. And I thought, have I popped in Wreck-It Ralph by mistake? The whole video game thing, I thought that was really out of place. I didn't think that didn't work for me at all in this.
Well, do you know what that made me think? Is when that happened, it was that kind of, obviously there were differences around, and like you obviously saw different characters that were just very out of place and all that. What I think it would have been cool is if those new emotions, when they had gone into the mind, just like set up stuff, like put like redecorated, and we're just like, oh, we're gonna to show they're kind of taking over. I think that would have been cool. That would have been a cool little visual.
Oh, in terms of the actual command station.
Yeah,
they're in. Yeah,
because, and the reason I say that, it reminded me of when those characters showed up, was just because it's that whole having a difference there, and I was like, do you know what would have been cool if they had actually done something like this and just shown like they had redecorated the place and stuff. I think that would have been cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like the what's it called again? The stream.
The stream of thought, the stream of consciousness.
The big purple place.
Yes, yeah.
The stream. Yeah. What do we do? What I liked is it looked like, so when you see the fountain, it looked like Hollow Bastion. It was like a really It was really cool, and I liked the music that was going on. I really did like the music that was in there. It was a real. I really liked that stream.
Yeah, so you're talking about like the actual score, the actual soundtrack of the movie. Yeah, so I was actually surprised about this. So Michael Giacchino did the music to the first one. I thought it was a really nice score, actually. That sort of main, quite simple actually, piano melody that comes throughout it, played really high up on the keys. That's used again here, but Michael Giacchino, for whatever reason, I don't know if he was scoring something else at the time or was busy, didn't do the soundtrack for this. So the soundtrack duties went to Andrea Datzman, composer I'm not really familiar with, to be honest. I think she's worked with Disney before. There was a Pixar short called Carl's Date from 2023, and an animated series of shorts called Doug Days in 2021. But I thought it was fine. It uses a lot of the established themes from that first film, and I guess credit to that goes to Giacchino, because that's the music that I gravitated towards the most. I don't think I really paid attention to much of the rest of the music. It was just kind of in the background for me in this one. Maybe I'd have to watch it again and pay closer attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't loads and loads of points, but there were points that stood out. Like, that was one big one to me. I did really, really like that. There was nothing like the standout, but yeah, I really enjoyed the kind of music that was going on there. It did feel very Kingdom Heartsy. It was quite nice, and yeah, I did enjoy it. I don't think it was one of the bad scores at all.
Mm-hmm. Bath Time, you might have seen this. Bath Time says, I'd like to see new characters introduced like Xanax in the next one. Osmosis Jones vibes. We've got a lot of people talking about Osmosis Jones.
That was the thing. That thing, Ozzy and Drix. Osmosis.
That's right.
That's the same thing. Yes, that was it. I feel like the movie's called Osmosis Jones, or I don't know. I can't remember what the movie's called now. But yeah, Ozzy and Drix. That's it. Osmosis Jones.
Oh yeah, Bath Time says lots of feedback off someone's mic. Could you just bump the volume down a little bit on yours? Right, remember what volume you've bumped it down to, and let's just go with that from now on. So
forever.
Let's see. Carl says apparently Lemmy got his nickname because when he was younger he kept saying "Lemmy a fiver."
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that either.
I thought it was "Let me have a line."
Bath Time says, you going to do Last of Us TV show, Chris, or outside your wheelhouse? It's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I have seen Let's Plays of the first two games, and to be honest, the less said about the second game, the better. And it looks like this series is going to stay true to the game. I was kind of hoping that it's one of the rare occasions where I actually don't want to see a point-for-point remake of the game, because the game is fucking diabolical. I kind of wanted season 2 to bomb off and rewrite the story and do its own thing. I think they might shuffle some events around, but from what I've heard, it's going to stay pretty true to it, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it was very it was just underwhelming, the first game. I played it and I ended it and went, it's okay. And everyone was like, no, it's amazing. I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah. Same. To me, it's a one and done. Like, the story's told in that first game, and the second game outright contradicts that first game, and it's just really fucking mean spirited, and agenda pushing, which never usually results in a good product, and it wasn't the case in The Last of Us 2, was it? Anything else to say about Inside Out 2? Well, I mean, this is getting nominated for Best Animated Feature, so let's talk animation. To me, it's just, they probably used a lot of new technologies. I'm sure a lot of things in the animation world have developed within the 10 years. It looked very much the same to me as the first one. It is kind of cool, though, when you see humans, for example, in the film, and you think back to the early days of where Pixar started. Like, if you go back to that first Toy Story movie, now I love the first Toy Story movie. It's my favorite one of the three, even still. But when you really look at what the humans looked like in that, compared to now, they've come so far as a company.
The best bit is comparing the first Toy Story movie to how the Toy Story world looks in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, well,
that's fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do like the animation in this, but I don't think that it stands out above anything. I think it's like, okay, it looks nice, but it doesn't look any different to the first one.
Which I suppose is a good thing.
Yeah,
You don't
no,
want it to be completely.
it is a good thing. But what I'm saying is, it's not like a whole like, oh my god, they've done really well with this.
Yeah.
It's just like it just looks like a standard Pixar movie. It looks cool. What I do like about it, and I liked about the first one, is it's very colourful. It's always been a very colourful movie because obviously all the emotions being different colours. Really, really love that. But in terms of animation and the way everything looks, it's standard.
I do like some of the close-ups of joy and sadness, for example, how it looks like they're covered in glitter, like in their blue hair. It looks kind of shiny and shimmery and splendid. But yeah, I think they had that texture in the first one, but I just really noticed it watching it again now. So, as I say, I'm sure they've able to add more things on screen, and there's more processing power, and the colors are more vibrant, textures are probably better. To me, it just kind of looks more of the same, and that's not a bad thing. It's consistent, which is what you want. It's not a completely retooled design, which I think they actually did for Incredibles 1 and 2. They sort of redesigned the characters for the sequel, and I don't know, it didn't sit right with me. They look slightly off, so yeah.
Why does sadness look like it can't decide what gender it is? It looks like one of those things, doesn't it?
A little bit. This actually blew my mind, and I think this is really unfair. There's a huge pay gap here. So listen to this. So Joy in the film is played by Amy Poehler, and apparently to come back for this film, she accepted an offer of $5 million with bonuses to reprise her role as Joy.
How do you get a bonus? How do you get bonuses as an actor?
I know.
Like, do they? I'm trying to work out how that works. Like, well done, you did a good performance. We're going to give an extra mil. It's like you're already being paid $5 million, babe. Like, chill.
And then you also have Phyllis Smith coming back as Sadness, and you have Lewis Black returning as Anger. But there was a pay dispute with the original voice actors of Fear and Disgust that was played by Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling, respectively. And apparently they were offered $100,000 each to come back.
Really?
So $5 million plus bonuses for Joy, but $100,000 each for those two. So as a result, they didn't return, and they were recast in this movie with Tony Hale and Lisa Lapira. Honestly, until I read that, I didn't know they'd been recast. So the new voice actors, I thought, fit the characters very well. But if that is true, that's fucking diabolical.
Yeah, that's not even okay. Like in the slightest.
Like, I know Joy's the main one, but you're sharing the load with like these characters, right? Like, it's an ensemble. You might just need to sort of bump my volume down a little bit more. I'm still getting that feedback a little bit. Is it better now? Oh, it's still a little bit more. I don't know.
I won't be able to hear you if I do any lower.
Okay, that should be fine. That should be fine. But yeah, that astounded me, and I know that exists. I honestly don't know much about Amy Poehler. Like, what has she been in? Have I seen her in anything? I mean, when they're a bigger star, yeah, you're going to pay them more, but that gap is huge between that for voiceover work. So
usually that gap is when it's someone's first movie as well. Like, Star Wars Episode 7, I'm sure Daisy Ridley was paid a few grand, and Harrison Ford was paid a few million, but she wasn't a big name then.
Yeah, or maybe she's got a really good fucking agent. Remember when Robert Downey Jr. for the Marvel films? I think it may have been for like Iron Man 2 and Avengers, possibly Avengers 2. But he got his salary, but then he also had a percentage of the overall profits, and he was getting an immense amount of money for those films comparatively to everyone else, because from that first film he'd done some kind of thing in his contract that allowed him to get that percentage. I think Disney tried to rework it a little bit or bring that percentage down come the third or fourth Avengers film, because these films were now huge. They probably didn't expect them to get as big as they did. And I know that Alec Guinness as well, for like the original Star Wars, had some kind of percentage of profits from the merchandising. Of course, for Star Wars, it was fucking huge, wasn't it? It was a worldwide phenomenon. So he had a handsome amount of money from that film. So maybe it's the case of that. But if they outright had to pay her $5 million to get her back and everyone else, yeah, not okay with that. So yeah, they
No.
didn't come back for quite obvious reasons.
That's weird.
Let's see. Carl says, do you think Disney backtracked on Riley having a crush on the leader of the hockey team, or is this always the story? Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because I remember reading that when it was coming out, that I don't know if this was the original idea. I don't know if this was already sort of animated and then they had to retool it or rework it. I did hear that they were going to have Riley have a same-sex relationship in the movie. And when she gets introduced to the high school, I could see the seeds of that a little bit. She was kind of fangirling out over the leader of the hockey team. But knowing that, because I did read that, I thought, I wonder if this is kind of the leftovers. She's like, oh my God, like you're gorgeous and cool, and you've got this, and I want to be just like, and it seemed a little bit like that, but they didn't go full force with it. Like I wouldn't call this movie like woke or anything like that. There was nothing sort of massively in your face agenda pushing wise. To me, it just told a good story and furthered the development of Riley.
I hate that though, if that's even an idea, because the thing is, the fact that that's even an idea is like, it's not just a gender pushing thing, it's pushing it on a 13-year-old when it's like, but she's a kid.
Yeah.
Like that's just, I think anyone making that kind of movie, I mean, I know I've talked about Inside Out 3 being involved in rape, but anyone actually putting that in a movie and releasing it as a kid's movie, surely like the people like looking at the ratings and stuff should look at that and go, you can't do that in a kid's movie.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
That should be looked at as some form of brainwashing, but...
And I think Disney, they have backtracked since this on something else, and actually it might be an Inside Out spin-off on Disney Plus, but there was meant to be a transgender character, and Disney actually issued a statement and they've removed that character completely and retooled it, and they issued a statement saying that we feel like parents might want to have these conversations with their children when it's right.
Do you know what?
And
no, you shouldn't. One, you shouldn't have that conversation with your child, and two, you shouldn't put it in a movie. At no point, if I had a child, would I have that conversation with them?
Well, I think now, politically in the US, not to make this, hugely political, I don't read everything about it. I am not politically minded at all. But now there has been a pendulum swing with Trump in power now, and, issuing statements saying there are two genders, and, it's like this written document and whatever. I am wondering if these big corporations, Disney being one of them, because it was so much the left and agenda pushing this, transgender that, now that the pendulum's kind of swung the other way, and you can see people are getting tired of being lectured to and all this box ticking stuff that we've seen in movies since probably around 2015. Now that it's gone the other way, I think we are going to see less of it. I think currently, I don't think it's going to be overnight. I think a lot of these projects that have been filmed 3 or so years ago, like I know Marvel's got a lot of TV shows lined up that have been filmed and ready to go multiple years ago. They are a carryover from those years before, and I think so it's not going to be a smooth transition. that's a good play on word, isn't it? But I do think that we're going to see steadily less of it now that the political landscape's kind of changed, and I do think Disney will get back to, fingers crossed, I really hope so, getting back to that. It depends how systemic that really, really, really far left voice is still at Disney. We know it's still in Star Wars with Kathleen Kennedy and whatnot, and I hope it's not there to stay, but to me, the damage has already been done to Star Wars and it ain't coming back. You can see things with Marvel where they're maybe trying to turn it round for the next Avengers movie. Personally, I think that's a little too late, because I think Phase 4 and Phase 5 have been a complete disaster with no sense of direction and so much of this box ticking. But I do wonder if in a few years Disney will just go back to making quality content. That's sure as shit ain't doing it this year, because we've got the Snow White movie coming out next month, which is
supposed to lose over 100 million.
Yeah, and I hope it fucking does.
Didn't Google take away Pride Month and stuff from their website?
I think so. Well, you've seen these just big companies, people aren't buying products now. Was it Bud Light or something? Which
that was
which company was it? And I feel, was it Jaguar as well? Did something with an advert fairly recently.
There was a few.
So, you know, the old adage, go woke, go broke. And I think maybe some companies are realizing that. And I think audiences are just realizing it now more than anything. I think, you know, you see the slightest whiff of it, or this box ticking thing, and it's just turning audiences off. And the smart companies will look at that and go, okay, well, this ain't making money. Let's do something that does. Whereas Disney just seemed to have been doubling down and just losing every time. It's like, how many losses, how many millions of dollars do you have to lose before you kind of wise up to it? I mean, their biggest hitters recently have been like Moana 2, which has made a crap ton, Inside Out 2. And when they did Deadpool and Wolverine for Marvel, which was kind of like an offshoot, really. It was a carryover from the 20th Century Fox stuff. And it was just Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds just bombing off and having fun. That made well over $1 billion. So someone needs to be looking at those numbers and deciding what to do. Because they haven't been.
Hopefully.
Bath Time says, oh my God, there must be a Captain America review coming. I haven't watched barely any of the films from Phase 4 and Phase 5. I think the last Marvel movie I watched may have been The Eternals or Doctor Strange, whichever one came out since then. And I'm done. I'm done with Marvel. I am fucking sick of superhero films. I don't know if it's that I'm sick of superhero films. That might be a lie, actually. I'm sick of bad superhero content. I think if they got back on track and started making entertaining, good, well-written movies again, I think I'd be completely on board. For example, the Batman 2, I've got to wait until 2027. But after the Penguin, I'm on board. Let's go. I'm cautiously optimistic for the Superman film coming out. I'm more intrigued by it. I don't think it will be necessarily good, but I am intrigued by it. We've just had an absolute shower of shit, haven't we, off an assembly line, and the new Captain America is no stranger to that. So,
well, I thought all the Marvel movies were pretty bad. They were just weak. They felt like weak formulaic movies.
Yeah.
Formulaic, yeah, whatever the word is.
Formulaic.
Is that the word?
Yes.
I've been doing this recently all week, making up a load of new words. Like the other day, when you say someone's responsive, for some reason, what came out of my mouth is they were replyable. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go with my words. I'm going to make up words all the time. It's great. But yeah, it's like they would just literally just run on the same 4 cylinders all the time. And it just felt, yeah. And I felt like that by like the 3rd movie. So
Anita is getting downright deranged in the comments. So I'm going to bring up one of her comments before she shouts at me with more exclamation marks and capital letters some more. Anita says, I'm too skeptical for the Snow White remake. Oh, it's going to be a dumpster fire. And part of me is morbidly curious. Like, part of me wants to watch it and just tear it a new one. But also, I don't want to give money to it. Like, I'm.
Do you reckon they'll show the pig's heart in it?
No. No. Oh, God, that's just going to be it's an absolute stain on the legacy, and it really hurts me. It hurts me somewhere. Bath Time says, not even the Daredevil TV show. Okay, part of me is intrigued by that. I've got on record before saying that Netflix, at least season 1 of Daredevil, in my opinion, is probably the best comic book adaptation of a character I've ever seen. It was fucking outstanding. And Daredevil's actually my favorite Marvel character of all time. And that show was an absolute love letter to that character. Season 2 was kind of a mixed bag. I really liked the Punisher side of everything. But then when it got into the Elektra storyline and what's it called? It's the Hand Clan, isn't it? Like the ninjas. It kind of lost me there. I never actually went beyond that, though, because then it kind of tied into the Defenders TV show, and to watch that, you have to watch all the others. I did watch Jessica Jones. I did watch Luke Cage. Couldn't make it through Iron Fist. I tried about 4 times to get through Iron Fist, and I just couldn't do it. And because everything leads into the next thing, I couldn't bring myself to watch Defenders because I hadn't watched that. And then after Defenders came and went, I didn't watch the Punisher series. I didn't watch Jessica Jones series 2. I didn't watch Iron Fist 2. And then because of that, I also didn't watch Daredevil season 3. So I'd have to do a big catch up, or maybe I could just skip to the Daredevil stuff. Some of the recent words, some of like the recent things that the creator of this new Daredevil series has said, though, really doesn't bode well. And just the amount of shade throwing at the Penguin as well, and the original Daredevil series. So it says, "Oh, we just didn't want to see people standing around in a room together talking about ideologies. We wanted to get to the action." I'm just like,
yeah, but
you've just completely missed the point.
That's what makes a good thing. Like, fighting is fun, but I've realized as well, even when you watch just anything, like when I watch Dragon Ball, where it gets interesting as well when they stop and talk and like rip into each other, or you find out something a bit more, then they fight, and like fighting's got to have like a thing around it, you know.
I'm trying to find these recent comments. Let's see if I can find the quote. Probably can't find them.
What was that? That movie with Will Ferrell?
What, Step Brothers?
Nah, the one on the ice skating one.
Oh, something of fire, isn't it? Of Fury, Blades of Fury, Blades of Chaos.
Blades of
no,
Fury?
That's God of War. Blades of Fury, maybe. I think, yeah.
Is it Blades of Glory? No, that's Bon Jovi.
That's Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I just got reminded of this with the hockey in this movie, so because the ice.
I can't find those comments now, but rest assured that the creators basically said that they just don't want to have people standing around talking about their thoughts and feelings and ideologies and their place in the world. I'm just like, boy. Bathsheim says, I think Snow White will make money. It's not a coincidence. She's Latina. It's massive in South America, like enormous. I don't know. I think it's the most ratioed video in YouTube history. It's over 1 million downvotes on the trailer, which filled me with confidence in the human race.
Is it a proper trailer now, like a proper trailer?
Yeah, looks awful. But everyone I've seen about it, and the comments are just tearing it a new one. So I'm hoping people just go, "This looks terrible," and just don't go and watch it. We'll see. It will have its fans and it will make some money, but knowing that they've basically had to reshoot the entire film, that's going to like double the budget. Yeah, and then it's got to make all that money back, plus marketing as well. I hope it loses everything. I hope it makes $1.
I find it weird that people shooting it, they're there just like, right, we're making a shit movie today.
Yeah.
Like, they know it, and it's weird.
I just need Disney to get back to making good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, though, Inside Out 2, then. Let's do final thoughts on it, because I think I've basically said everything I can on it. I guess my final thoughts on it, to me, it doesn't quite hit the heights of the first one. I think the first one was new. It was inventive. They, introduced us into this world and sort of the rules of this world. The second one does everything I think a sequel to Inside Out should have done, and I think it did it well. It introduced a new set of characters, which I think was necessary for an animated sequel, and it did push Riley in a new direction by aging her up by 2 years and having her go through puberty and the raging emotions that you go through as a teenager. I think that lended itself very well to Inside Out and the world, and there was a nice message behind it, and although it hits some of the similar beats from the first film, it does have its place in this journey. I don't know what they're going to do with an Inside Out 3, but the fact that it has made so much money shows that it's connecting with its audience, and they'll probably be fast tracking a third one, to be honest. It was fine. It was more of the same for me. It wasn't quite as a tour de force as the first one was to me. But it's a nice film, and I think as Disney sequels go, and Pixar sequels and prequels and offshoots go, certainly it's a cut above the rest. And I do think it has the potential to, whilst not be as popular as the Toy Story films, it is hitting on some of those similar emotional beats that I think made the Toy Story films, at least the first three, work so well. And I think it's a very, very good animated film, and one that, I'd say is deserving of being nominated at the Academy Awards.
Yeah, it's I preferred it to the first one, though. I did actually find myself holding more attention. I mean, I held my attention with the first one, but it was very sort of like, I was like, it's okay. Whereas this, I felt, there was more jokes and stuff that I actually liked and enjoyed, witnessing. Yeah. The thing is, it's very like Toy Story, isn't it? You've got Riley, which is like the kid, which is like Andy, who's not the main character, but she's the thing that it revolves around. So, but like it's like Andy, like he revolves around. If he wasn't there, the toys wouldn't be there. But he's not a main character. I mean, he's a main character. He's a main entity, but he's not a main. Like you don't see him really. It's like Riley. Like you do see her, but she's not the main big thing there. So big comparisons, really. Very big comparisons.
I don't know if it's clearly not the case with this one because it made so much money, but I wonder if they get to a third one, will the novelty have worn off with this thing? I suppose that entirely depends on the story that they're telling and if it's well written and, it's just as emotional as the other two. I don't really know where you can go. The only other way I can think of is you double down even more, you introduce even more new characters, but then I feel like that would go the way of their original idea where they were going to have so many emotions that it would just bog the film down and you're going to have character bloat.
Would it be out of place if it went through Riley's life all the way until she died in the second one, in the sense of, like, how in Up it's quite emotional, it's quite sad. If it had that kind of tone towards the end where someone, how they come in and what's it called? Like, like the workers, they come in and like, oh, we're restructuring, we're doing this for like the new emotions. If they come in, if someone comes in and just like, we've got to turn this all off in 24 hours and it shows how they deal with it. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting way to go. But the only thing I'm thinking about is like Riley would have to know because her emotions know what she knows. But it's like there's a line obviously to what they do know, what she knows. But yeah, I think that'd be an interesting thing you could deal with in the third one. That'd be like a nice way to round it off. But Disney wouldn't want to round themselves off so much so they can't do a sequel.
I mean, as you get older, you constantly develop and mature and have new outlooks on life and whatnot. So, as I say, like with the teenage stuff, you do mature obviously as a teenager, but I feel like those emotions that were established in this film kind of are maintained. I mean, she's 13 in this movie, isn't she? I feel that's kind of maintained up until maybe like 18, 19, kind of all the way through your teens, essentially. So for any new profound story to be told with the emotions and how Riley deals with it, I feel like you need to age her up. I feel like you need to jump it ahead by, like, if the next one does take 10 years, have it be set 10 years later. Don't do what this movie did and have it just be set 2 years later. Leaving college maybe and then having to work like a 9 to 5 or something. I don't know. There is potential there, I think, but the only way I can think about doing it is jumping it really, really far ahead. I mean, the ideas that you've come up with, the whole thing about maybe Riley going through some kind of like illness or something, like life-threatening situation.
I think it could work.
I think that is a really bold way to go. I don't think Disney or Pixar will do that.
Disney won't.
I know they have dealt with some darker material or more mature and sad material before, but to have a whole plot line centered on that, I don't think.
I'm not saying a whole plot line, but what if like Riley as a kid and you have the whole like the emotions inside, like, because then you get to see emotions from a baby, which would be cool. So you see her go through that as well, and the emotions go through that, and then it kind of, the baby grows up. You see those emotions deal with the emotions of someone else as they're going through the same thing she did, and then at the end there's that whole like, oh, we're gonna need to switch all this off in 24 hours kind of thing. That, like, because that's the end. That's not the whole thing dealing with that, but that's at the end. It'd be a nice way to round it off. Disney won't do that, but that would be, I think that'd be a good idea. Because then that way you're still open to a sequel. You still got, okay, you got Riley's kid. It's kind of passing a torch. That could be cool. And then Riley's kid like plays with her toys, and then she gives them up to a little orphan at the end, and then rides off into the sunset.
I mean, we're throwing ideas out there. Someone from Disney might be listening to this, so one of these ideas approached. Everyone in the comments, like, let us know what you'd do for an Inside Out 3. Where
I would make Ariana Grande the main character.
Of course you would. Yeah. What I like about these films is that there isn't really a villain in the film so much. I guess there kind of is more so in this one. I guess anxiety kind of takes that role, but anxiety is an emotion and is just doing what that emotion does, and every single one of the emotions always has Riley's best interest in mind. It's just that some of the emotions, of course, have different ways of going about it. So I really appreciate how there's kind of that grey area with the characters. And I agree with Carl. Carl says that Inside Out 2 didn't feel like a kid's film. It felt more aimed towards adults. And to be honest, I'd say, yeah, adults are going to read something into it. Kids are going to enjoy it. It's a family film. And that's what I fucking miss. Like, you know, that Pixar, when they were great, when they were absolute titans in the animation world, because I feel like they have dropped off considerably, sort of like modern Pixar compared to what they were. But those good like films that you can watch as a kid and enjoy it as a kid, but as you get older, no matter how old you are, there's something in there to grasp onto and have a profound impact. And I think another one of the films that has been nominated, which we'll get to at some point, The Wild Robot, does that outstandingly well. I can't wait to rewatch that again and get your opinions on that, Dale, because I think you're going to really like that one.
The Wild Wobot.
The Wild Wobot. Those wascally wabbits. Carl says Carl from Up should have moved on from Ellie. Carl's first date just felt wrong. Oh, sorry. Carl from Up shouldn't have moved on from Ellie. Carl's first date just felt wrong. Wait, what? They do that?
I've not ever seen Up, to be fair. So
is this like a sequel to Up? Is this where he's like playing the field again? Oh, fuck that noise. Oh, hell no. Carl's old, like, no. Carl's first day. Carl's old school in that movie. He wouldn't move on. He lived a life with that woman. No, absolutely not. This is why sequels shouldn't happen. That's not in my head canon. I'm deleting that from head canon. That, you know what? Like, if you were to look in the emotions in my head, I've got something, a vault called head canon. And some things are sealed in a vault that I don't allow entry into the head canon. For example, Star Wars episodes 7, 8, and 9 exist in the vault. They're not allowed in the head canon. In the neighboring jail cell to them is Indiana Jones 4 and Indiana Jones 5. And it's all these wonderful things that exist in the vault away from the head canon.
Mine's just got paintings of Ariana Grande everywhere.
What else would be in the head canon? Let me see. What else would I just choose to forget about? Every Terminator film after T2. Yeah, there we go. Although Terminator 3 and Salvation does have its moments, but yeah.
With mine, Dragon Ball stopped at the end of the Cell Saga. It stopped. Goku died. That was done. The rest, it's cool. I like it, but it's not canon. It's a side story that you go, okay, this is fun. And when you play the games, their characters play and wicked. And I still watch it, and it's still great, but it's not canon story.
It's like if Kingdom Hearts 4 turns out to be massively shit. It's not in the head canon. It ended with 3. There you go. That's the new head canon.
It was a good ending. 3 had a good ending.
Mm-hmm.
And that explains something. I go, do you know what? Don't like that explanation. We're ignoring it.
So yeah, I guess like the long and short of it is with Inside Out 2 is good. You know, it's a great animated film. It deals with a lot of complex themes to it, and I'm glad that a film like that actually feels like it has something to say has made so much money and has had so much reach with people, because the amount of films that you see that are saying absolutely fucking nothing and making so much money, it's really disheartening. So it's nice to see a good Pixar film again that's got good writing behind it. And although I didn't personally enjoy it as much as the first one, there's still room for it, and it still is actually saying something profound that I think a lot of people can latch on to. So, which one are we reviewing next? We are going to decide a bit of a schedule because we've got 4 more films to get done pretty much within a week. So it's going to be down to the wire, but I think we can do it. So, yeah, on Sunday this week, we'll be streaming again. I'll have a post up on my community page saying what time we're going to be going live. We're going to be reviewing Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. This came out on Christmas Day, and I watched it with my folks. It felt like old school Christmas Day, where you'd watch a close shave or the wrong trousers or something. It'd always be around supper time. You'd get like your cheese and crackers, and you'd kick back and you'd watch Wallace and Gromit. Very much like that. And I was going to do a review of it on Christmas Day. I was going to do a live stream, but it didn't kind of materialize in the end. So I'm glad it has been nominated, and we will be talking about it Sunday. Have you already seen it, or no?
No.
Okay, excellent. Have you seen all of the other Wallace and Gromit shorts?
I don't know if I've seen all of them.
I think the last one was A Matter of Loaf and Death.
No, I haven't seen that one. I switched off after Were Rabbit.
Right.
Were Rabbit bored me. It was like, yay.
It'll be interesting to see what you think of this one. There's a lot I like about this one, and part of me thinks I should maybe just go off memory, but I think I will rewatch it because I think it's worth a rewatch. It's an hour and 20 minutes, just shy, so it's not massively, it's not overly long. I think it's on Netflix as well, or it might be on BBC iPlayer now, but you have the means to find it, I'm sure. Right, that'll do it for us. In the meantime, if you haven't done so already, or you're discovering this video after the fact, please let us know your thoughts on Inside Out 2. How would you compare it to the first one? And what I'm curious about is to hear what people's pitches are for an Inside Out 3. How would you continue the story of Riley? Please do consider subscribing to the channel as well for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. In the TV show Realm of Things, I recently got done. It was just me to camera talking about the finale of Cobra Kai Season 6 and the end of the Cobra Kai and Karate Kid legacy. Although there is another Karate Kid film coming out at the end of May. So I guess it's not completely the end, but there we go. So you can go and check that out. Of course, if you like our review of this, Inside Out 2, we've covered all of the Disney animated classics. And there might be plans for a Pixar one at some point. I'm just going to leave it at that for now. But you can expect that in the future more than likely, which means that we're going to have to review this one again. So hopefully enough time has passed by that point where we can come back to it afresh. So, yeah, no, this is great. I've got a lot of other stuff planned. I think we've got Andor Season 2 coming out in April, which is a couple of months away. I'm trying to hail everything in Middle-earth to get more collaborations with him. And, of course, in the meantime, you've got the lovely Dale, who's going to be joining me on this quest of reviewing the best animated feature films before the Oscars. So thank you to everyone that's tuned in tonight and kept the conversation going. We always appreciate you guys and taking time out of your evenings to watch us prattle on about Disney and animated films. We really appreciate it. Have a good evening, everyone, and we will catch you on the next one, which is probably going to be Sunday. Take care, everyone.